Mr. Attorney General, I wanted to ask a few questions about the anti-weaponization fund. We know that the department has agreed to pause this effort until at least June 12th. I wanted to ask what your plans were for the fund after June 12th.
So thank you. So look, we're not moving forward with the fund. You're right that there's a date that in the case in the Eastern District of Virginia in June, but we are not moving forward with the fund, period.
Well, there's some breaking news this afternoon on that $1.8 billion slush fund. The Justice Department is now refusing to say in a court filing in writing that it's officially killing it. A federal judge had ordered a sworn declaration in writing, putting an end to the slush fund by today. But DOJ is arguing that the declaration is, quote, unnecessary, and claiming that acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's testimony to Congress, what we just played you, should be sufficient. That testimony, though, is not under oath and not under penalty of perjury. Now, all of this is because of the DOJ's continued resistance to backing off the fund in writing. The legal battles over it will thus continue. We're back with Congressman Krishnamoorthi, Michael, and John. Congressman, it's, I guess, pretty obvious. It feels like a dumb question to ask, but for the record, why do you think they refuse to put in writing that the slush fund for payments for Trump's political allies, potentially including violent insurrectionists, is something they won't put in writing?
Because they don't want it dead. Regardless of anything that Todd Blanche said, President Trump wants this thing definitely alive. Contrary to rumors that it was on death row at that hearing, I think that it was probably transferred to that low security prison that Ghislaine Maxwell is at, that Todd Blanche transferred her to as well. And by the way, that's yet another reason that he should not be the Attorney General. And I have circulated a letter with regard to this issue to the Senate with a lot of signatures from my colleagues on it, saying he has no business being the Attorney General of the United States. He's still the president's personal lawyer, looking out for Trump's personal interests, not the best interests of the country.
Congressman, if you had to predict if enough Republicans share your view of the president's personal lawyer, who's acting as acting Attorney General, do you think there are enough to thwart his confirmation as AG?
Possibly, yes. I think this anti-weaponization fund is so unpopular with enough Republicans that I talked to that I could see, not enough votes for his confirmation. And Thom Tillis, I think, was one of those who basically said there's just no way that he could support Blanche's confirmation. And the reason is very simple. People like McConnell and others remember that the people that are supposedly going to get money from this anti-weaponization fund are the very insurrectionists that attacked the Capitol in January 2021. And I just don't think that this fund is going to go away as an issue for Blanche's confirmation.
Michael Feinberg, I don't like to put my eggs in the Republicans will grow a spine, do the right thing, even if it's for U.S. national security basket. But I will point out some signals of disapproval of the Blanche and or Pulte picks. This is from John Cornyn. He tweeted out a quote from a Wall Street Journal piece that went like this, quote, "Here's where things go off the rails. When the president fails to acknowledge some hills simply can't be held and charges up anyway. That's what happened in the fight over Bill Pulte, wiretapping, and the Save America Act. His no-win standoff with his Senate GOP risks more than national security. It's accelerating his lame duck status." Sort of making an argument on the two fronts, protecting U.S. national security, which has never been persuasive for Donald Trump. But lame duck status gets right at his thin-skinned little underbelly of an ego. Do you think either of those will be persuasive, or do you think he's, as the Journal points out, charging up the hill?
I'm torn. On the one hand, I'm fortified by the fact that in order to oppose Todd Blanche, to keep him out of the RFK building as the permanent attorney general, you don't need all the Republicans. You just need a few. And one of the ones who seems like he might show the most spine is Thom Tillis, who, of course, is on the Judiciary Committee, where he actually wields quite a bit of power and could conceivably make it so that Blanche's name never even reaches the floor. But we've seen time and time and time and time again from January 6th forward, Republicans say that they've had enough and they're going to stand up to Donald Trump, only to back down when the rubber hits the road. So it's really difficult to say. But the reason I'm worried and that I think Senator Cornyn's tweet is actually worth looking at is the two departments that could be the most influential in helping the White House skew the results of the midterm elections or interfere with them being carried out in a nonpartisan manner befitting civil society is the Department of Justice, which is supposed to prosecute election crimes, but has already announced that it is not doing the command post for election night that it has done literally every year in recent memory, and ODNI, which now has Bill Pulte at the helm. So, am I glad Republicans are standing up, at least in small numbers? Yes. Am I still worried existentially about the future of our country? Also, yes.
Yeah, I mean, Heilman, you'd have to stick your head in the sand not to see exactly where Trump is heading with this. He's heading to the exact dramatic testimony we heard from his own White House insiders in the very dramatic primetime hearings of the January 6th Select Committee, absent the key figures who literally barred the door. I mean, he wanted to seize voting machines. That's what the Reuters information reporting suggests is what Pulte was rushed in there for this week. It's a report that they've been holding it for Pulte to arrive. They think Pulte is a better bet than Clayton, one could easily and logically surmise. So they rushed him in there Thursday ahead of what was supposed to be a start date of today. It's all out in the open. Trump already said in the Oval he's there to look into rigged elections. Trump wanted the military to seize voting machines, and it was actually Rudy who I think said that was going too far. So we called DHS and went online. This is all in the record. We know what he wanted to do on that front. And at DOJ, I mean, Bill Barr went on CNN ahead of the elections of 2020 and said he was going to pursue election fraud. It's Bill Barr who rather famously testified before that same select committee and said all the election fraud theories were bullshit. But here we are, no Bill Barr, no Rudy. I never thought I'd view that as an unfortunate occurrence, and no guardrails whatsoever.
Yes. Correct. That's the story of Trump 2.0 right there in a nutshell, Nicole. I don't want to. We're kind of talking about things because of the weirdness of the fact that Tulsi Gabbard got, by Trump's direction, got dragged into these supposed election integrity, these all of Trump's accusations of voter fraud. We suddenly are like, well, the DNI is involved in that, and when we're looking at, and obviously that is what Trump is doing with Bill Pulte. I just want us to keep our eye on the ball. You are right that is what Trump wants to do. He wants to interfere with the November elections. He's made it clear. He's said it a bunch of times. We've talked about it a million times on the show. So what's the office by which he's going to do that? It's not going to, the front line of that is not going to be the DNI. The front line of that is going to be the Justice Department and the FBI. And so the question is, can he get Todd Blanche to be the actual Attorney General? And can he get Todd Blanche confirmed? And I know that you are not naive. And I know that Michael is not naive. And I know that everybody is couching all of their comments about, are the Republicans finding their courage? And yes, we've seen some signs of certain situations in which people are speaking out, and people who are, for various reasons, Bill Cassidy, John Cornyn, both feel betrayed by Trump. They couldn't find their spine before that. Thom Tillis has been opposing Trump in certain limited ways once he decided that he was going to leave the United States Senate. But I ask you right now, as we sit here, is there a Republican senator who's on the record opposing the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General? There is not. There is not one, right, even though the reasons to oppose that are manifest and obvious, and there are many Democrats who you could find, and most of these Republicans know what those reasons are. You don't need hearings to know why. You just have to look at Todd Blanche's behavior as acting attorney general and as the DAG to know why he's not qualified to be the attorney general of the United States of America. Yet no Republican right now is on the record for that. And I think that we are kidding ourselves if we think that some of these, that's a scattering of Republicans. I hope I'm wrong about this, but I'm much more in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. When the Republicans, that small collection of Republicans band together and stop Todd Blanche, because that is where the rubber's going to meet the road on election interference. It's the DOJ and the FBI, and that is why Todd Blanche matters so much, and why I am so disheartened and so not just disheartened, but I don't want to say petrified, but so why I find it so ominous that is where the action is going to be, and I think Todd Blanche is going to get through. That's why I'm feeling so unnerved these days.